Let me ask you something real simple. Have you ever walked into a room and felt your soul shrink, like your spirit just took a step back without you even knowing why? That's not your imagination. That's your intuition. That's your God-given radar warning you about toxic people. And we all got them. Family, friends, coworkers. Some of the people closest to you are the ones silently poisoning your peace. And it hurts. It hurts deeply when the ones you thought would clap for you start plotting behind your back. It hurts when the person you gave your all to turns around and uses your kindness like a weapon against you. But listen to me. You are not weak for feeling. You are human. And the smartest way to deal with these people, it's not revenge. It's not shouting matches. It's not proving a point. It's learning the power of quiet strength. The kind of strength that walks away without bitterness, chooses peace over pride, and lets go without losing yourself. Because peace is the real prize. And I promise you this, nothing toxic is worth sacrificing your soul for. Not now, not ever. You wake up in the morning with a heavy heart and you don't even know why. It's not the job, it's not the weather, it's not the bills, it's the people around you. It's the energy they bring into your space, the subtle digs, the backhanded compliments, the way they drain your spirit without even touching you. And yet you keep letting them in because you're trying to be good. You're trying to be kind. You're trying not to hurt anyone. But let me ask you this. Why are you so willing to break your own soul just to keep the peace outside? Why is everyone else comfortable while you're carrying their weight on your back? The truth is, your peace has to become your purpose. It has to be your mission. Because when you lose your peace, you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, you start shrinking for people who were never even clapping for you. That's not love. That's not loyalty. That's emotional slavery. And it's time to break free. You're not here to please everyone. You're not here to be a doormat. You're here to walk in truth, live in peace, and protect your soul like your life depends on it. Because it does. Do you ever notice how your mood shifts after talking to certain people? Like the joy in your heart gets sucked out the moment they walk into the room. That's not a coincidence. That's your spirit alerting you. But what do? We ignore it. We tell ourselves they're just having a bad day or that we're being too sensitive. No, you're not being sensitive, you're being aware. And the sooner you learn to listen to that awareness, the better your life will become. Peace isn't something you stumble into. It's something you fight for. It's something you create with intention. You don't just find peace, you protect it. You build it like a fortress around your soul, and you stop opening the gates for people who only bring storms. That means setting boundaries. That means saying no. That means walking away from conversations that feel like war zones. And yes, that's going to make some people mad. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you selfish, but that's only because they can't feed off you anymore. They don't miss you. They miss the version of you that tolerated their chaos. And that version of you, that person's gone. You've outgrown the drama. You're not required to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. But too many of us were raised to believe that love means sacrifice, even when that sacrifice destroys us. We were taught that being a good person means staying quiet, taking the hits, never speaking up. But I'm here to tell you something real. There is nothing noble about letting someone damage your spirit in the name of loyalty. If your loyalty costs you your peace, it's not loyalty, it's bondage. And you deserve better. You deserve to breathe without walking on eggshells. You deserve relationships where your presence is not just tolerated, but celebrated. You deserve to feel safe, not watched. You deserve to be seen for who you are, not what you do for other people. That's what peace feels like. And you can't wait around for someone else to hand that to you. You have to take it. You have to protect it like it's your purpose. Because your soul has suffered long enough. And if you keep allowing the wrong people to dictate your worth, you will never step into the life God created you to live. You'll stay small to keep others comfortable. That's not living, that's surviving. Let me speak directly to the part of you that's tired. The part of you that's been pouring into people who never pour back. The part of you that keeps showing up, keeps forgiving, keeps sacrificing, hoping that one day they'll see your heart and treat it right. I see you. I know you're exhausted. But the truth is, peace doesn't come when they change. Peace comes when you change. When you stop expecting a toxic person to become healthy. Some people will never love you the way you love them, not because you're unlovable, but because they are broken in ways that have nothing to do with you. And that's a hard truth to swallow, but once you do, you're free. Free from chasing approval, free from bending over backward, free from carrying pain that doesn't belong to you. Protecting your peace means putting yourself first, not out of ego, but out of survival. Because nobody else is going to save your sanity but you. You are the gatekeeper of your soul. And if you don't guard it, the wrong people will keep marching in like they own the place, tearing down everything you're trying to build from the inside out. Every time you say yes to something that hurts you, you say no to the healing you actually need. Every time you let someone cross a boundary just to avoid conflict, you teach them that disrespect is acceptable. And then you wonder why you feel resentful, why your joy is fading, why you feel so lost in rooms that used to feel like home. It's because you've been compromising too long. You've been shrinking, bending, sacrificing, trying to keep the peace by abandoning yourself. But baby, that's not peace. That's performance. And the role you're playing, it's killing your spirit. Protecting your peace means finally realizing that some people won't like the new you, the healed you, the one who says no without guilt. And that's okay. Let them go. Let the doors close. Let the silence speak. You don't need to explain your healing to anyone who was never invested in your health in the first place. You're not required to carry everyone, especially not the ones who placed bricks on your back and called it love. You're allowed to choose you. In fact, you must choose you, because no one else can do it for you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. Walk away from conversations that become battlegrounds. Walk away from friendships that feel like obligations. Walk away from relationships where you're constantly defending your worth. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Because peace doesn't grow in chaos. Peace grows in soil that's nurtured with honesty, boundaries, and self-respect. And the hardest part, you won't always get closure. You won't always get apologies. Some people will never admit what they did to you. And that's okay. You don't need their permission to heal. You don't need their understanding to let go. Your peace is not dependent on their awareness. It's dependent on your decision. And once you decide that you are worthy of quiet, of calm, of love that doesn't hurt, you stop entertaining anything less. You stop negotiating with pain. You stop returning to fires you've already escaped from. That's not cold. That's courageous. You can't fix broken people by breaking yourself. And peace? Peace is never found in the arms of someone who confuses love with control. Choose peace over and over again until it's the only thing you allow in your life. Let me tell you something that'll shake your soul a little bit. Not everyone deserves access to you. Just because someone wants to be in your life doesn't mean they should be. Just because they've been around forever doesn't mean they still belong. Longevity doesn't equal loyalty. And sometimes the most toxic people are the ones who smile in your face while chipping away at your confidence behind closed doors. You have to start evaluating people based on the peace they bring, not just the history you share. Protecting your peace means you stop feeling guilty for letting people go. You stop apologizing for putting your healing first. You stop feeling like you owe explanations for outgrowing environments that suffocate your soul. You don't. You owe yourself freedom. You owe yourself rest. You owe yourself the right to breathe without judgment. And if that makes you the villain in someone else's story, so be it. Let them write their narrative. You don't need to defend your peace to people who only loved you when you were breaking for them. Your light is not up for debate. Shine anyway. And keep your peace as your highest priority, because nobody else will protect it for you. Peace isn't found in quiet rooms or vacations or moments away. Peace is found in the decisions you make daily. It's in the boundaries you set, the people you say no to, the conversations you no longer entertain. It's in the way you stop over-explaining, stop seeking approval, stop begging people to treat you the way you deserve. Peace is an inside job. And the smarter you get, the less you argue. The stronger you become, the more you walk away. The more you value yourself, the quicker you spot the games. And suddenly the drama doesn't excite you anymore. The chaos doesn't tempt you. The attention doesn't flatter you, because now you've tasted peace and nothing noisy feels right anymore. That's growth. That's what healing feels like. When peace becomes your purpose, you start aligning your life around people and things that pour back into you. Not just take, not just need, but give, support, uplift. And if that means your circle gets smaller, so be it. Sometimes peace requires isolation before elevation. And you were never meant to stay surrounded by noise. You were meant to rise in peace, in purpose, in power. You don't have to be angry to cut someone off. You don't have to yell, argue, or make a scene. You can love people and still leave them. You can forgive them and still never invite them back into your space. That's not bitterness. That's balance. And when you protect your peace like it's your purpose, you stop confusing access with love. Just because someone used to have the key doesn't mean they still deserve the door, especially if all they ever did was bring in the storm. You're not heartless for choosing distance. You're not cruel for choosing clarity. You're finally learning that your soul deserves safety. And anyone who brings chaos to your spirit isn't loving you, they're using you. You were never put on this earth to be someone's emotional punching bag. You're here to grow, to rise, to live. And none of that is possible if you're constantly managing other people's mess. So breathe. Exhale the guilt. And trust that peace will take you places drama never could. Your purpose is tied to your peace. Protect it like everything depends on it. Because it does. You're born with purpose, wrapped in promise, and filled with power. But if the people around you are constantly dimming your light, you'll start to doubt your own brilliance. You'll start to question your worth. That's why peace must become your daily pursuit. It's not about perfection. It's about alignment. When you're at peace, you think clearer. You move with intention. You love deeper. But you also guard smarter. That's the beauty of healing. It doesn't make you hard. It makes you wise. You stop letting everyone in. You stop trying to fix what's not yours to fix. And you start realizing that not everyone's storm is your responsibility. Peace teaches you that you don't need to react to every insult. You don't need to defend every move. You don't need to justify your growth. You just need to protect the space where your joy lies. And when you do that, life changes, not because people stop being toxic, but because you stop tolerating it. You rise above, you heal, you evolve, and every step you take in peace becomes a step toward the life you were always meant to live. Silence is one of the most underestimated powers a person can possess. It's not the absence of strength, but the quiet presence of control. In a world that rewards loudness and attention, being silent can be your greatest advantage. When you choose not to respond, you rob chaos of the fuel it needs to survive. You don't need to match noise with noise. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Wisdom comes from the ability to assess, observe, and act, not out of impulse, but intention. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you've mastered your emotions to the point where you no longer need to prove yourself. People who constantly talk often reveal too much of their plans, their fears, their insecurities. But when you stay silent, you become unpredictable. You force others to wonder. That's power. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. Not every situation deserves your reaction. The power of silence lies in the mystery it creates. In silence, you regain control of your narrative. It becomes less about what they say and more about what you choose not to say. Use it wisely, and it becomes a weapon no one can disarm or anticipate. Some of the most dangerous people are the quietest in the room, not because they lack something to say, but because they choose what not to say. When you speak too often, you dilute your message. When you stay silent, you preserve your strength. Silence gives you time to think, time to assess, time to calculate the outcome before making your move. That's strategy. That's discipline. People often try to provoke a reaction from you just to gain control. But when you stay quiet, when you don't respond, they lose their grip. They become uncomfortable because silence demands they face themselves. It reflects their own insecurities, their own rage, their own noise. Silence is not passive, it's assertive. It's an intentional stand. Sometimes the most powerful message is no message at all. You can't argue with someone who won't engage. You can't control someone who doesn't need your approval. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving people leverage over you. That's how you win quietly. That's how you elevate without announcement. When used with wisdom, silence becomes a fortress that protects your peace, your power, and your purpose. There's a reason why wise people are often the quietest in the room. They've learned that silence can speak louder than words. It doesn't mean they don't have opinions. It means they know when their opinion is necessary and when it's just noise. When you're silent, you create space for truth to reveal itself. You let others expose themselves through their own words. You learn more when you listen. You gain leverage when you withhold. Not every situation needs your comment. Not every problem is yours to solve publicly. Sometimes your silence forces others to sit with their own mistakes, their own drama. That's the gift of self-control. In moments of chaos, silence calms the storm. It's a declaration that you won't be moved by distractions. People who master silence are often feared, not because they're aggressive, but because they're unreadable. And what you can't read, you can't control. They don't respond to threats. They don't feed drama. They move with precision, not emotion. They let their results speak, not their mouths. Silence is not just absence, it's presence. It's focused attention. It's knowing your value and refusing to negotiate it with noise. That's wisdom. That's strength. We live in a time where people equate speaking with power, but true power often lies in restraint. The world conditions you to respond instantly to every insult, every slight, every disrespect. But when you take a step back and remain silent, you reclaim your control. Silence forces others to question themselves. Was it worth saying that? Did I just embarrass myself? Silence plants doubt in their mind while strengthening your clarity. The one who controls their mouth controls their mind. And the one who controls their mind owns the battlefield. When people expect rage and you respond with calm, you disarm them. When they expect defense and you offer nothing, they crumble under their own assumptions. You don't owe reactions to people who don't respect your boundaries. You don't owe explanations to people who've already judged you. Silence reminds you that not everything is worth your energy. The truth doesn't need to shout. Silence is also a test of ego. Can you walk away without needing to be right? Can you choose peace over pride? That's where your real maturity is tested. When silence is used with wisdom, it humbles your enemies and honors your growth. Sometimes the most dangerous trap is the one that pulls you into useless conversations. Arguments that go nowhere, debates that drain your soul. That's where silence becomes your shield. You don't win by having the last word. You win by not entering the arena at all. That's not cowardice, it's clarity. If a person can disturb your peace with a few words, then they own a piece of you. But when you become immune to provocation, you become untouchable. Some people talk just to trigger you. They want access to your emotional energy. Don't give them the satisfaction. Don't give them the reaction. When you stay silent, you make them talk more. And the more they talk, the more they reveal. It's chess, not checkers. Silence lets the truth unfold naturally without interference. Your peace is too precious to be sacrificed on the altar of petty conversations. Not every battle deserves a soldier. Sometimes the real flex is walking away without making a sound. Because silence doesn't just protect you, it exposes them. Let them talk. Let them assume. You stay grounded, you stay calm, you stay focused. That's how silence becomes a weapon of precision and grace. There's strength in biting your tongue when your ego wants to scream. There's wisdom in pausing when your emotions want to explode. That moment of silence between impulse and response, that's where growth happens. When you learn to sit with your feelings without reacting, you become more powerful than the ones who scream. Silence is where reflection begins. It's where you learn the language of patience. You start to see what really matters and what's just noise trying to provoke you. People often misjudge silent individuals. They think you're timid, but in reality, you're tuned in. You're not disengaged. You're discerning. While they're speaking to be heard, you're observing to understand. That's what makes you a threat. That's what makes your presence heavy. You don't need to raise your voice to command a room. Sometimes your stillness speaks louder than 1,000 opinions. You don't react because you're afraid. You stay quiet because you've already made a decision. That's what most people don't understand. Silence isn't avoidance. It's awareness. You're not running away. You're choosing what's worthy of your voice. And most times, silence is the loudest, most intentional choice you can make. There's a discipline in choosing silence over chaos, in choosing peace over performance. The world rewards loud personalities, but silence is where transformation happens. It's in those moments when you sit alone with your thoughts, your pain, your questions. That's where your inner strength is born. That's where you learn that not every storm outside needs to be let inside. Silence teaches you that peace isn't found in shouting your truth. It's found in living it. There's a certain kind of elegance in knowing your worth and still keeping your mouth shut when others try to test it. You don't need to match disrespect with retaliation. Your silence is your boundary. It's you saying, you can talk, but you won't touch my energy. That's high-level living. That's spiritual maturity. And when you learn to sit in silence without needing validation, you break free from the need to always explain or defend. You learn that real ones recognize real energy, spoken or not. So keep your silence, protect it. Let it filter what matters from what's just noise. Let it become your safe space, your strategic edge. Because when used with intention, silence is more than a tool. It's a lifestyle. Some people will try to pull you out of character just to feel like they have power over you. But the moment you respond with silence, you show them that your peace is not up for negotiation. Silence makes you immune to manipulation. They can twist words, they can lie, they can project, but they can't fight silence. It's a void they can't fill. And that frustrates people who feed off drama. They want noise because it distracts. But silence demands reflection. And most people can't handle that. They want chaos because it's familiar. But when you're silent, you bring calm into the room. You disrupt dysfunction with presence. You refuse to participate in the games. That's power. You don't get pulled into low vibrations because you've risen above them. Silence doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't give your feelings away for free. You know your worth. You know your path. And you know that not everything that demands your attention deserves your voice. That's how you reclaim your energy. That's how you stop being reactive and start being intentional. Silence, used with wisdom, doesn't just defend, it dominates. People underestimate the healing power of silence, not just in arguments, but in daily life. Silence gives your soul time to breathe. It helps you hear your intuition. In the quiet, your mind settles and your vision becomes clearer. You begin to see people for who they are, not who they pretend to be. You start recognizing patterns, red flags, hidden agendas. Silence sharpens your awareness. It increases your sensitivity to energy. You begin to notice the things others miss because they're too busy talking. That's how you stay ahead. That's how you stay alive. Silence doesn't mean disconnection. It means deep connection with what truly matters. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. When you move in silence, your progress surprises everyone. You don't need to announce every step when your results will do it for you. People will question how you're so calm. It's because you've learned to trust silence. It's where you realign, where you refocus, where you release what's not yours to carry. Silence is more than absence, it's presence, power, and purpose rolled into one. Use it with wisdom, and you'll always stay one step ahead. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. That's the lesson silence teaches you over and over again. The more you grow, the less you argue. The stronger your vision, the less you explain. When you truly know yourself, you don't seek validation in noise. You find strength in solitude. You're not afraid to pause, to reflect, to observe. That's where wisdom is cultivated. While others waste their energy trying to be seen and heard, you're conserving yours for things that actually matter. You're not above people, you're beyond their tactics. Silence becomes your filter. It keeps you aligned with your values and immune to nonsense. You realize that peace is not something you find, it's something you protect. And silence is the gatekeeper. Don't let the world rush you into speaking, reacting, or explaining. Your silence is not emptiness, it's intention. It's clarity, it's power in its rawest form. Use it with wisdom, and it will open doors that noise never could. It will guide you through storms, anchor you in chaos, and elevate you without needing applause. That's the kind of power that can't be faked or forced. That's the kind of weapon only the wise know how to wield. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with clarity. Distance is not always about disconnection. It's about protection. When you create space between you and the people or environments that drain you, you're not being cold, you're being kind to yourself. You're choosing peace over pressure, growth over guilt, healing over habits. It takes real strength to say, I love you, but I love me too. Sometimes love doesn't mean holding on. Sometimes it means letting go so you can finally breathe. Distance is a boundary, not a punishment. It's the moment you stop abandoning yourself just to keep others comfortable. Distance doesn't always mean you're done caring. It means you're done sacrificing your well-being for people who don't value it. You can care about someone deeply and still choose to step away. That's maturity. That's wisdom. That's self-respect. You're not responsible for fixing everyone. You're not obligated to stay in spaces where your energy is constantly being taken for granted. Love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Loyalty doesn't mean ignoring red flags. When you choose distance, you're choosing clarity. You're saying, I can't grow here. I can't heal here. And that's okay. That's necessary, because not everyone is meant to walk every mile of your journey with you. Some people are just meant to teach you something and let you move on. We often confuse love with proximity. But real love isn't measured by how close someone stands next to you. It's measured by how well you both respect each other's space, needs, and evolution. And sometimes that evolution demands distance. It's not rejection, it's redirection. It's God removing the noise so you can finally hear your own voice again. Distance lets you reconnect with your values, your dreams, your identity. It reminds you who you are without the influence of people who never truly saw you. Sometimes you've got to leave the room to see how much light you bring into it. You have to go silent to see who starts asking where your voice went. That's how you know who's for you and who was just around for convenience. Taking distance for yourself is not selfish, it's sacred. It's a form of self-love that says, I refuse to lose myself to keep others happy. It's knowing your limit and honoring your worth. You weren't created to carry everyone's burdens at the cost of your own. When you constantly overextend yourself, you break the very parts of you that need mending. Distance gives you time to think, time to heal, and to rebuild what the world tried to tear down. It allows you to reframe your relationships, not through obligation, but through alignment. You learn who shows up when you're no longer easily accessible, who respects your silence, who still honors your boundaries when they're no longer benefiting from your presence. It takes incredible courage to distance yourself from someone you care about simply because staying close hurts more than letting go. But that's real love. For you, that's self-trust. You know what you need, and you're not apologizing for it anymore. People might not understand it. They might label you as distant, cold, detached. Let them. Because they don't know the war you fought behind your silence. They don't know the weight you've carried behind your smile. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. You don't have to explain why you needed space to find yourself again. Distance is the bridge between the person you were and the person you're becoming. Don't confuse comfort with alignment. Just because you're used to someone doesn't mean they're good for your spirit. Distance reveals what proximity hides. It shows you what's real and what's routine. When you step back, you begin to see more clearly. You begin to feel again, to dream again, to breathe again. Distance allows the truth to rise to the surface, both in others and in yourself. You find out who supports you when they can't reach you. You find out what matters when all distractions are gone. You begin to hear your own voice above the noise of everyone else's expectations. That's where transformation begins. Not in noise, but in quiet, intentional separation. People who truly love you will respect your need for distance. They'll understand that your silence isn't always a goodbye. It's a give me time to realign. And those who don't respect that, they were never truly connected to your heart, only to your availability. Real connection doesn't demand constant presence. It values presence when it matters. And sometimes the most powerful form of love is saying, not right now, I need to focus on me. You're not neglecting anyone, you're nurturing yourself. You're not closing the door. You're creating space for clarity. That's how you protect what's sacred. That's how you guard your peace. Every time you choose distance, you choose growth. You choose healing. You choose truth over comfort. It's in that sacred space where you learn to pour into yourself again. You remember that your love is valuable. Your presence is a gift. And not everyone deserves unlimited access to it. Distance helps you detach with dignity. It's saying, I love you, but I won't lose me for you. That's a powerful declaration. That's a turning point. You stop shrinking to fit into places that were never built for your soul. You stop settling for connections that cost you your peace. And in that silence, in that solitude, you find something stronger than anything someone else could give you. You find you. If you ever feel guilty for taking distance, remind yourself of this. You are allowed to choose peace over pressure. You are allowed to prioritize your healing over someone else's comfort. You don't need to be everything for everyone. You just need to be true to yourself. When you take that step back, when you go quiet, when you say, I need space, you're not walking away from love. You're walking towards self-respect. You're honoring your own heart. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's bravery. Because real love, real growth requires boundaries. And sometimes the only way to find peace is to first find distance. So take the space you need. Step back without fear. Create distance without guilt. Because the right people will understand and the wrong ones will fall away. You were never meant to be everything for everyone. You were meant to be whole for yourself. Distance isn't the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of a new chapter. A healed mind, a peaceful heart, a stronger version of you. So don't fear the silence. Don't fear the space. In it, you'll find clarity. In it, you'll find strength. In it, you'll find the love you've been giving away for so long, finally returning back to where it belongs, within you. There comes a moment in your life when you have to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Some folks don't want the truth. They want control. They don't want peace. They want chaos. You can pour your heart out, speak with all the honesty in the world, and they will still twist your words, flip your intentions, and turn your kindness into ammunition. Not because you are wrong, but because they are broken. And you cannot fix broken people with logic. You cannot repair shattered souls with arguments. They aren't listening to understand. You're speaking to their wounds, not their wisdom. And when someone's heart is filled with bitterness, it doesn't matter how softly or wisely you speak, they'll always hear your words through the filter of their pain. You've got to realize that not every battle deserves your presence. Some people argue to defend their dysfunction. They hold on to their brokenness like it's a trophy. You step in, thinking you're helping, thinking you're reasoning, but you're only stepping into a trap. You don't argue with someone who's already decided that growth is a threat. You don't argue with someone who's at war with themselves and looking for someone else to bleed on. Let them talk. Let them spin their narratives. Your energy is too sacred to waste on conversations that go nowhere. When you argue with someone who is broken, you get pulled into the very confusion they live in. And if you're not careful, you'll begin to doubt your clarity, question your peace, and compromise your sanity. There's power in silence, power in walking away. You don't need to win an argument with someone who's lost within themselves. Some people don't want resolution, they want reaction. And the moment you react, they win. Because now they've dragged you down to their level. They've pulled you into their mess, into their dysfunction. And once you're there, there's no logic, there's no clarity, just noise, emotion, ego, and pain. Don't fall for it. Don't argue with someone who's already chosen their confusion over your truth. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Your sanity is not a battleground. Protect it, guard it, value it. Because broken people will break anything they touch, including your spirit, if you let them. You don't have to attend every fight you're invited to. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they're right. And just because someone is broken doesn't mean it's your job to fix them. You can love them, pray for them, even wish the best for them. But that doesn't mean you should engage them. Your silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Your distance is not coldness, it's clarity. You've got to know when your presence is healing and when your presence is enabling. Arguing with broken people often turns you into someone you're not: defensive, angry, reactive. And by the end of it, you don't even recognize yourself. That's the cost of engaging with someone who refuses to see beyond their own pain. Sometimes people don't want a solution, they want a stage. They want an audience for their misery. And when you step in to help, to reason, you become part of the show. They don't hear you, they perform for you, they deflect, they blame, they project, and none of it has anything to do with you. It's about them. It's always been about them. Their issues, their wounds, their trauma. You're just the closest mirror in the room. And mirrors don't lie, that's why broken people hate them. When your peace reveals their chaos, they don't seek understanding, they seek to destroy what made them feel small. But hear me clearly. You are not responsible for how someone chooses to respond to your wholeness. You've got to love yourself enough to walk away from conversations that go in circles. People will bait you, they will test you, they will try to pull you into their emotional storms, but don't go. Don't engage. Don't explain yourself over and over again to people who never wanted to understand you in the first place. Some people argue not to find truth, but to protect the lies they live by. And no matter how eloquently or compassionately you speak, you can't reach someone who's built their identity on being wounded. It's not your job to heal everyone. It's your job to guard your soul, preserve your joy, and walk in peace. Brokenness doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like control, manipulation, rage, gaslighting. And when you try to reason with someone who's been operating from their wounds for years, you don't help them. You hurt yourself. Because now you're pouring into a cup with no bottom. You're investing in a conversation that has no end. And every time you come out of it, you feel depleted, confused, exhausted. That's not love. That's not understanding. That's self-abandonment. And you weren't called to abandon yourself just to prove a point to someone who's not even listening. You're not the villain for walking away. You're not the coward for staying silent. You're the wise one, the healed one, the one who finally realized that your peace costs too much to keep selling it to people who pay with chaos. There's a difference between compassion and codependency. Yes, you care. Yes, you want to help, but your empathy should not become your prison. You can love people from a distance. You can wish them healing without offering yourself up as the sacrifice. Broken people often find power in arguments because it distracts them from the work they need to do. But your job is to stay free. Your job is to protect your focus, your purpose, your emotional clarity. Not everyone deserves access to your voice, especially if all they do with it is twist your words and feed their bitterness. The moment you realize this, your life changes. The drama fades, the confusion lifts, and all that's left is peace. Peace is your birthright. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to fight for it. You just need to protect it. And sometimes protection looks like silence, like walking away, like choosing not to pick up their call, like ignoring that bait, like smiling and letting it go. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you powerful. Because the strongest people are not those who win arguments, but those who don't need to start them. They've outgrown the noise. They've outgrown the need to prove themselves. They've realized that peace is more precious than pride, and silence is more powerful than shouting. That's where true strength lives, in restraint, not retaliation. So remember this, not every voice deserves a response. Not every battle needs a warrior, and not every broken person is ready for the truth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing, do nothing, be still. Because in that stillness, you protect your spirit, you preserve your peace, you reclaim your power. And that right there is what broken people fear the most. Not your words, but your silence. Not your presence, but your absence. Because nothing unsettles chaos like a soul that refuses to engage. So let them argue with their shadows. Let them wrestle with their own demons. You stay whole. You stay focused. You stay free. There are people in your life right now who are quietly draining you. Not because they hate you, not because they're evil, but because they don't value your peace, your vision, or your growth. You've been conditioned to think that love means letting everyone in, that kindness means keeping the door open, even to those who consistently bring confusion, drama, and distraction. But at some point, you've got to realize your life is not a public park. It's a sacred space. In your inner circle, that's your fortress. That's your sanctuary. Not everyone should be allowed to walk in and leave their fingerprints on your soul. Some folks should never have made it past the front gate. And if you don't start guarding your circle, you'll wake up one day surrounded by people who clap when you fall, not when you rise. Your circle will make or break your future. Let that settle in. You're not just protecting your peace, you're protecting your purpose. Because every person close to you carries influence. Whether you see it or not, they're shaping your thoughts, your habits, your beliefs. They're either pouring life into your dreams or poking holes in them when you're not looking. That's why you have to be vigilant, discerning, unapologetic. It's not about being cold. It's about being wise. The same way a fortress has walls, guards, and gates, your life needs boundaries, accountability, and standards. You don't let someone inside just because they're familiar. Some people come with keys they stole through guilt, manipulation, or shared history. But history doesn't equal loyalty, and proximity doesn't equal trust. Hey, if someone consistently leaves you feeling anxious, small, doubted, or drained, they don't belong in your inner circle, period. I don't care how long you've known them. I don't care if they're family. I don't care if they were there from day one. If someone's presence is costing you peace, it's too expensive. You have a responsibility to protect your spirit, because broken people love open doors. People with bad intentions look for easy access. And if you're not watching closely, you'll find that the enemy doesn't always show up as a stranger. Sometimes it wears a smile, you know, a voice you trust, a face you've grown used to. That's why discernment is key. You've got to ask yourself, does this person bring light into my life, or do they leave shadows? Guarding your inner circle isn't about isolation. It's about elevation. You're building something with your life. You're constructing a legacy, and legacies require labor. They require concentration. If you're constantly putting out fires, cleaning up emotional messes, or recovering from backstabs, you're distracted. And distraction is the enemy of destiny. You can't go where you're meant to go while dragging people who are fighting to stay stuck. You can't fly if your circle is a cage. So ask yourself, who around me challenges me to be better? Who celebrates me without jealousy? Who tells me the truth with love and not with malice? That's who belongs in your fortress. Not the loudest, not the most familiar, but the most faithful. We've got to stop feeling guilty for growing. Stop apologizing for evolving. Some people were only meant to walk with you to the gate, not through it. And that's okay. You can love them from the other side. You can wish them well without making them a part of your daily life, because your energy is precious. Your time is limited. And you don't owe anyone unlimited access to your mind, your dreams, or your emotion. This is your life. And if you're not intentional about who sits at your table, don't be surprised when they start stealing your joy, silencing your voice, or poisoning your faith. Remember, a fortress without a gate is just a ruin waiting to happen. You need walls not to keep love out, but to keep the right love in. There's nothing selfish about guarding your space. That's what wisdom does. You don't see kings and queens walking around with no security. Why? Because their value is known, their position is protected, and their influence is too powerful to leave it open to attack. Why don't we treat ourselves the same way? Why do we keep letting negative voices take up room in our most sacred places? People who gossip, people who envy, people who sabotage you behind your back and smile in your face, cut them off. Not with bitterness, with wisdom, with clarity. Because you don't owe anyone your peace, but you do owe it to yourself to protect it. Every great life begins with a guarded gate. Your circle should be a mirror of your future, not a reminder of your past. If you look around and all you see is familiarity, but no accountability, no inspiration, no upward push, it's time to reset. You weren't meant to just survive life. You were meant to thrive. And thriving requires intentional relationships, people who sharpen you, people who check you when you slip, people who believe in you even when you doubt yourself. That's the kind of fortress you need. Not a crowd of spectators, but a circle of warriors. Not yes men, but truth tellers. Not leeches, but lifters. Because in the battles of life, you don't need people who fold when it gets tough. You need people who remind you who you are when you forget. Sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who don't look dangerous. They're the ones who say all the right things but never clap for you when you win. They disappear when you're low but reappear when it benefits them. They're not enemies, they're opportunists. And if you don't guard your space, they'll keep taking until there's nothing left of you. But here's the truth. You don't have to let them in. You have the power to choose who gets access, who gets influence, who gets presence. That power belongs to you. And when you start using it, when you start filtering your circle through wisdom, watch how your life begins to shift. Watch how your mind becomes clearer. Your purpose becomes sharper, and your peace becomes stronger. See, the reason so many people stay stuck is because they're surrounded by people who benefit from their brokenness. The moment you start to heal, to grow, to elevate, those people feel threatened. Why? Because your growth exposes their comfort. Your change reminds them of their stagnation. And so they try to pull you back through guilt, through shade, through silence. But you've got to be bold enough to choose you, to protect your peace, even when it means walking alone. Because sometimes peace requires distance. And distance isn't rejection, it's protection. You're not being mean, you're being wise. You're not being cold, you're being called. And when God calls you higher, not everyone can go with you. So let your circle be sacred. Let your space be strong. Guard it like a fortress, because your destiny depends on it. Every time you let the wrong person in, it costs you something. Energy, focus, joy. But when your circle is right, everything flows. Ideas come faster. Peace sits longer. Growth feels natural. And suddenly you're not just surviving, you're soaring. That's what you were made for. Not chaos, not confusion, but clarity, purpose, power. So build your fortress, check your gates, and never again apologize for protecting the kingdom within you. There comes a moment in life when you have to throw your hands up, not in defeat, but in surrender. You've tried everything. You've pushed, pulled, cried, prayed, worried yourself into sleepless nights and anxious mornings. And still, it's not working. That mountain hasn't moved. That pain hasn't faded. That breakthrough hasn't come. But let me tell you something. There is power in surrender. Not to people, not to pressure, but to God. To the one who sees the road ahead when all you see is darkness. To the one who's been writing your story from the very beginning. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is stop trying to fix what only God can heal. Stop trying to carry what only God is meant to lift. You were never meant to carry it all. That weight on your shoulders, it was never yours alone. That burden in your chest, God never asked you to hold it so tightly. But because you're strong, because you're resilient, because you've been through hell and survived, you've convinced yourself you can handle anything. And you've done a good job pretending. But inside, you're breaking. You're tired. And that's okay. God never demanded perfection. He asked for trust. He asked for faith. Faith doesn't mean having all the answers. Faith means leaning on God when nothing makes sense. When your plans collapse and your heart is shattered in pieces. Faith says, even this, God can handle. You've been trying to force doors open that were never meant for you. You've been banging your head against closed windows, begging them to become opportunities. But not every delay is a denial. Sometimes God says no because he's protecting you. Sometimes that closed door is the greatest blessing you'll never understand until years later. Sometimes God is silent because he's working behind the scenes, rearranging people, timing, and situations you know nothing about. You're asking for answers, but God is building a story, a better one you couldn't have written yourself, but the longer you fight his timing, the longer you delay your peace. Surrender isn't giving up, it's getting out of the way. When your heart is heavy and your hands are trembling, when your mind won't stop racing and nothing you do seems to make it better, that's when you let go. That's when you whisper, God, I can't do this anymore. And that whisper It reaches heaven louder than any shout. It reaches the throne room of grace like a sacred cry. Because God responds to desperation. He moves for the brokenhearted. He listens when your soul doesn't have the strength to speak. But you've got to trust him with the pieces. Don't just give him what's neat. Give him what's messy, what's cracked, what's buried under shame and silence. Because God doesn't need your perfection. He just wants your permission. Let him in. Let him hold what you can't carry. Let him fight battles you can't see. Because sometimes the biggest breakthrough comes when you stop trying to be God and start trusting the God who's been waiting all along. You weren't created to live in stress and anxiety. You were created to walk in peace. And peace doesn't come from control. It comes from release. When you release your worries, you make room for his wisdom. When you release your fear, you invite his power. When you release the outcome, you finally allow God to move freely. You stop blocking him with your own need to know how, when, and why. You've been walking through fire thinking you're alone. But God never left you. Even in silence, he was present. Even in pain, he was close. Even when you cursed the sky and doubted his presence, he stayed. You were never forgotten. He's counted every tear, heard every prayer, seen every breakdown. And still he waits for you to let him take over. See, there's something holy about surrender. It breaks the chains pride puts on your spirit. It releases the grip of fear from your soul. Surrender says, I don't know how this ends, but I trust the one who does. And that kind of faith moves mountains. Not because of you, but because of the God who stands behind you. You might not see it right now, but God is working. That delay, divine. That heartbreak, a redirection. That loss, a seed. A seed for a future you can't imagine yet. A seed for something greater than you thought possible, but you've got to bury your worry in faith. You've got to let God water it with grace. You've got to stop digging up what he's still developing. Trust that even when it looks like nothing's changing, something is shifting. Heaven is never still when a child of God prays with a surrendered heart. Your pain has been heard. Your cry has reached the gates of heaven, and heaven responds, even in silence. If you could see what God is preparing, you wouldn't waste another second in fear. You wouldn't lose another hour doubting. But that's what makes faith so hard. It requires vision beyond sight. That's why the word says we walk by faith, not by sight. You have to learn to trust what you can't see more than what you do. You have to stop leaning on your understanding and start leaning on his promise. His promise that he'll never leave you. His promise that what the enemy meant for evil, he will turn for good. His promise that your tears are never wasted. Your waiting is never empty, and your prayers are never unheard. So right now, wherever you are, pause, breathe, and give it to God. That thing you've been wrestling with, that person you've been trying to fix, that outcome you've been trying to force, let it go. Not in fear, but in faith. Say, God, I trust you with what I can't handle. Say, God, I trust you with what's bigger than me. Because the moment you do that, peace starts to fill the cracks. Strength begins to return. And suddenly, you're not walking alone. You're being carried by grace, by love, by the one who never fails. You were never meant to do it all on your own. You were meant to walk with a God who does the impossible. So give him what you can't carry. Give him the pieces you've been hiding. Give him the fear you're too ashamed to name. Because when you do, you open the door for miracles, real miracles, not by your strength, but by his. Let go of control and let God take over. Because what's too big for you is still small for him. And what's overwhelming for you is already handled by heaven. As we navigate through life, we often find ourselves facing challenges that seem impossible to overcome. It's easy to become consumed by the weight of our struggles, to feel as though we must carry every burden alone. But the truth is, we were never meant to bear all the weight of this world. There is a higher power, a force greater than anything we can understand, waiting to take on what we cannot. When we surrender our battles to God, we free ourselves from the need to control everything and allow his divine guidance to lead us through the storm. Too often we get caught up in the illusion that our strength lies in our ability to handle every challenge on our own. But true strength comes from knowing when to let go, when to trust, and when to release control. The moment we accept that we don't have all the answers and that we can't fix everything, we open the door for God's grace to move in ways we couldn't have imagined. It's in this surrender That we find peace not because the circumstances change immediately, but because our hearts are aligned with a higher purpose. There's a profound sense of peace that comes from releasing your fears, doubts, and uncertainties to God. It's not about giving up. It's about choosing faith over fear, trust over anxiety, and peace over chaos. When you place your burdens in his hands, you allow him to work in ways that you cannot see or understand. Even in silence, he is moving, orchestrating events, and preparing something greater than we can imagine. So as you continue on your journey, remember that you are not alone. God is always with you, guiding you, even when you can't feel him. Trust in his timing, trust in his plan, and most importantly, trust in his love for you. Every moment of struggle is an opportunity for growth, a chance to deepen your faith, and a reminder that God is always in control. Let go of the need to know every detail and embrace the peace that comes from trusting that God has a plan. When you allow him to handle what you can't, you open your life to endless possibilities and blessings. It's time to stop carrying the weight of the world and let God lift the burdens that were never meant to be yours. Thank you for listening. May you find peace in surrender, strength in faith, and comfort in knowing that you are never alone. God bless you.